and he's also started the Bald Man's Club. Right, him and Joe Rogan do the Bald Man's Club, and
They do a lot of good work.
they do a lot of great work. It started with Bruce Willis, and
Bruno.
he's really grown that organization to include a lot of people you would never guess, even the guy from Titanic. Um,
Really?
well, one of them, not Leo,
Zane.
not
Oh.
Zane.
Billy Zane.
Billy
Billy
Zane.
Zane. Yeah.
I saw him at a video store once. I was like, "What the fuck, your head?" And I couldn't believe it. But so here's Dana White. Now he got sick with COVID, and he did the Joe Rogan regiment. And so he took a lot of stuff they say you're not supposed to take, like ivermectin and stuff like that. And then he got
to be clear, they say you're not supposed to. That's not doctors, because his doctor said take that.
right.
That's
No, his
media
doctor said
people.
no. The corporate news makes you think that ivermectin is a horse poison, when in reality it's a Nobel Prize winning medicine that is considered a miracle drug, and it treats all kinds of things and has been prescribed over 3 billion times. Now that doesn't mean it treats COVID, but that doesn't mean that it's a horse medicine, uh, and it doesn't also mean the CDC says they don't know if it treats it or not. That's what the CDC says with ivermectin. They go, hey, we don't have, there's not enough evidence to say it does treat it, and there's not enough evidence to say it doesn't. That's what the CDC says. But again, they won't go do a study to prove it one way or the other. Isn't that interesting? Because anyway, we'll talk about it later. But the thing we're going to talk about here is monoclonals. So now I've told you that they've suppressed early treatment of COVID because if there was a treatment for COVID, they couldn't get emergency use authorization for the vaccine, and that's a fact. So it had to be suppressed. So I can't tell you what those treatments are because they'll take my channel down. But they did suppress it, and Fauci's been lying left and right. He lied about masks, lied about herd immunity, lied about funding gain of function. He said you were a conspiracy theorist if you thought that there was a lab leak that caused this pandemic. All that stuff. Now that's all been proven wrong, and Fauci's admitted he's a liar. But his YouTube channel is not taken down. So here they're going to ask him about monoclonals, which is a drug that treats COVID. And they never fucking tell you about it.
But Jimmy, that's made by a corporation.
Yeah.
So why do you
So why
think that's because a corporation makes that.
Same
so
corporation,
gotcha.
same corporation that makes your blood pressure medicine, blood pressure medicine makes that. So why does that? So
Isn't
here,
your point that no medicine works because a corporation made it?
yeah. So here we go.
Hey Dana, you mentioned Omicron. When you got sick with COVID, you reached out to Joe Rogan for advice on what to do. I was wondering what your thoughts were with the 200 plus doctors trying to put pressure on Spotify, saying that Joe's menace to.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Well, how about this? Ever since I came out and said what I did, it's almost impossible now to get monoclonal antibodies. They're like they're making it so you can't get them. You know, medicine that absolutely works, they're keeping from it. I don't want to get too political and start getting into all this shit, but ivermectin and monoclonal antibodies have been around for a long time. Now all of a sudden you can't dig them up to save your life. The doctors won't give them to you, you know. And even when I did it here in Vegas, which was however many weeks ago that I had it, like right before Christmas, I think, or something. Um, yeah, I made one phone call and was able to get it done. And that's not like some fucking rich famous guy shit. Like anybody could have called and you know, because that's what everybody always throws at me. Yeah, of course you can fucking make a phone call and get it. Bullshit. Everybody could have got it back then. You know, Lene had it. Lene did monoclonal antibodies and did all that stuff. Everybody could get it. Now, you know, Rogan's been talking about it. Then I went crazy talking about it. You can't get those things to save your life now. Literally.
Are you surprised at the backlash that people don't even want to allow you to discuss options and pre-treatment?
It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Yeah, it's.
He's going to get to it in a second, but yeah, it's disgusting that they don't ever talk about vitamin D3, vitamin K2, vitamin C, fluvoxamine, monoclonals. They never talk about any of this stuff ever. All they do is vaccine, mask, and shut your mouth. That's all they talk about. And why? Because they're all corrupt. That's why. So here we go. Watch this.
Craziest things that I've ever witnessed in my life.
He's saying it's the craziest thing he's ever witnessed in his life. People not being able to get drugs that can help them, and while they're being suppressed by the establishment medical community.
You know what, Jimmy? I blame Joe Rogan for this.
I
because
blame-
if he hadn't spoke about how he was treated.
With monoclonals, then they would have still been able to be available. But here we go. Watch this.
And we're not talking about experimental drugs or things.
No.
This stuff's been around. And the ivermectin,
You're a doctor?
The guy won the Nobel Peace Prize. Huh?
No, but there's plenty
Okay.
of doc.
So a guy who apparently is a reporter says to him, "Are you a doctor?" You don't have to be. No, you don't have to be a doctor to know what's going on. You need to be a detective. And that guy, you're a journalist, and you're shaming someone for speaking about their personal experience. That's the opposite of journalism. So what that guy is a propagandist who's shitting his pants. That's what whoever that person was. Do you hear that? Are you a doctor? What? No, he's a guy who got sick with COVID and his doctor prescribed something for him, and now he knows for a fact that you can't get monoclonals. They're so much harder to get now than when he and Joe Rogan got them. Why is that? That reporter's not curious at all. That reporter's a propagandist, not a reporter.
Well, I like that there's reporters listening to the Forbes Don't Do Your Own Research.
Yeah.
Even the reporters shouldn't do any research.
Yeah. Right? So what? He keeps going.
There you go.
That
Here he comes.
I just asked a question. Are you a doctor?
Just a question. I just asked a question that's completely supposed to shame you and shut you down and tell you that you're not really qualified to talk about this. That's all I did. That question doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't. Why? And then so he's such a pussy, he can't even take responsibility for the question. We all know what the fuck you just meant, you pussy. Dana White knows what you meant. I know, and guess what? You know what you meant, but you're too big of a fucking coward to own it. I'm just saying something. That doesn't mean anything. Why do you want to know if he's a doctor? You know he's not a doctor, so you weren't actually asking that question, were you? No, he was making a statement. You're trying to shut him down and embarrass him, but you're the one who should be embarrassed because you're the opposite of a reporter and you're the opposite of an American. I wish I knew who that guy was. You know he's shitty. Watch this.
No, but I took them and they both work for me. So why shouldn't I be able to take them again? Or other people? No, come on.
I won't answer because you don't have an answer. Because that guy doesn't have an answer. That's why I won't answer. Why? Because I'm a pussy. That's why. Because I'm a coward. I don't have any intellectual consistency, and I'm going along with the herd. It's a cult. It's called the COVIDian cult.
Dive in.
we do have a
But why
brain
shouldn't we
to
be able to take
our
them?
own decisions.
Right? You want to know what's scary? I bet I could get some fucking pain pills quicker than I could get monoclonal antibodies. No, not maybe. That's a fact. That's a fact. They fucking hand out pain pills like they're Tic Tacs. Huh?
Oh, so now he's got an answer. So now the guy goes, well, nobody said that was right. Yeah, but what Dana White is saying,
Didn't his doctor say that? A
What-
doctor said it was right.
but what Dana, no. The guy said, nobody said it was right that everybody should get pain pills. And first of all, yes, Big Pharma did for fucking decades, and maybe 2 decades say you should, yes. A, and B, what is that? No, Dana White is saying, why is it I can get a drug that's going to kill me, but they're keeping me from a drug that might save me? That's the question, dummy. Do you see how it is when you have to debate or have a discussion or an argument with these people who are branch COVIDians?
Excuse me, what's happening
They
here?
got brainwashed by Big Pharma. You can't have an honest conversation with them.
Jimmy,
They're circular logic. I mean, it's all circular logic. When I
Merry-go-round.
debated about the mandates, it was all circular logic. It was like, hey, you're gonna get it anyway. Yeah, but it'll be less. No, it won't be. Yeah, but don't you want to help people? That has nothing to do with helping people. You're all gonna get it. Go ahead, Kurt. You want to say something?
It was Yahoo sports reporter Kevin Iole.
Ioli. Wow,
It's a sports reporter.
he's
Are you a medical reporter?
Are you? What does he know about medicine? How do you know that the that the pharmacies were wrong when pharmaceuticals were wrong when they told everybody to take extra OxyContin? So now you're a doctor. Now that guy's a doctor. No, what that guy is a brainwashed fucking repeater of propaganda in the opposite of a reporter.
He's
And a
also
pussy,
this.
by the way, of the highest order. And if you want to come on my show,
He's that
you're
too.
welcome to come on my show.
Do you think
Because
you know,
more people will see you look like a fucking moron on my show than will ever read anything you ever write. Guaranteed.
you know what he looks like?
This will be your big break. You could come on my show. This will be your big break. Go ahead, Kurt.
If you look him up, he looks kind of like if John Lithgow looked like a pussy.
That guy is a pussy of the highest order. And so here I don't know if I'm allowed to do this because I'm not a doctor. Am I allowed to read the newspaper? Do I have to have a journalism degree to read the newspaper? Somebody should have asked that guy. You're a journalist? Did you go to journalism school? Because I guarantee you fucking didn't. And because there's only two kinds of people who go to journalism school, right? Shitty journalists and dupes. Maybe that guy did go. I think he probably did. Now that I think of it, I bet you he did go to journalism school. Hey, you don't have to go to journalism school to be a journalist, you dummy. You don't have to pay anybody any money. You could just be a journalist. Big demand, just like comedy. Just like being a singer, just like being a writer. You don't have to go to school to do any of this shit. You just do it if you can do it. I didn't go to comedy school.
Comedy school.
Big demand makes COVID fighting antibodies hard to get in California. That's from September 21. Why is it hard to get antibodies in California? Here's another one. Monoclonal antibodies save COVID patients. Why are they hard to get? That's the Washington Post. Do I have to be a doctor to say that? Do you have to be a doctor to read the Washington Post? Here's CNN. Doctors are often unaware of the only treatment for early COVID-19. There it is. Are they doctors who wrote this? No, they're not. The people who wrote this are not doctors. The people who wrote this are fucking hack journalists just like you.
When did that come out?
This came out October 25th, 2021. That's by Elizabeth Cohen. She's a senior medical correspondent.
But is she a doctor?
But she's not a doctor. So how could you ever? So she shouldn't get to talk like this.
Nope.
Well,
or talk about it.
Never.
Because that's what America's all about. Restricting people's speech.
You should know that Kevin Iole has a Nat Fleischer Award for career excellence in boxing journalism. So I think you probably feel like an asshole right now.
I do feel like an asshole. Yeah. I mean, then he certainly would know a lot about the OxyContin craze that went across. Right. He would be an expert to talk about that. Although he felt like he was, he chimed in on that.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't answer any of the questions that Dana White had to ask him. Hey, so why shouldn't I be able to get those drugs? I'm not going to answer. Why? Because you'd look like an idiot.
You know.
Yeah, that's why. That's why. That'd be why.
That's fine.
He looks like a guy that got lap band surgery and used to be fat. So I'm guessing there's a touch of Kevin Klein. Don't say I'm not healthy at any. I'm sure there's something about that in it too.
What's his name?
Kevin Iole. I guess it's Iole or Iole.
So he's basically an oil-based substance, right? He's very oily. And that's a perfect description of a guy like that. Very oily. Very oily.
Ew.
What a fuck. And he won't come on the show. Why? Because he's a pussy. That's why he won't. That's why I can have an open door policy for him to come on. He's not coming on. Believe me. More people would see him on my show than are ever going to read anything he writes combined for the rest of his fucking life. And he won't come on. Why? Because he's a pussy.
And we like pussies. I mean, that's
yes. Ready?
friends of the show.
On September 17th, this is from frickin' CNN. But apparently Dana White's not allowed to talk about this. Stuff that's been reported on widely. Dana White's not allowed to talk about it, according to Mr. Iole, because is that a spicy aioli? I bet it's not.
I'm thinking of aioli.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking of aioli.
Mayonnaise.
Yeah, aioli. Hang on, I gotta move over. There we go.
Thank you.
So here's from CNN. You want to hear how hard it is to get monoclonals for absolutely no reason? Here we go. On September 17th, Myra Arana made the phone call she says saved her life. Arana had been vaccinated against COVID-19, but she developed a breakthrough infection. She feared the virus might kill her since her immune system is weak after years of treatment for leukemia. Arana's family physician in California told her there wasn't much she could do besides stay at home and rest. That's not true. There are treatments. At home, following her doctor's advice, she got sicker by the hour. Her husband placed a pulse oximeter on her fingertip, and it showed her blood oxygen levels were dipping dangerously low. Getting more and more worried, Arana called her oncologist at the University of California, San Francisco. It turned out her family physician was wrong. There is a treatment for early stage COVID-19. By this point, Arana was so weak she couldn't walk on her own. Her husband, a school bus driver and custodian, got her out of bed and drove her to the UCSF Fresno, where she received 4 shots of the treatment called monoclonal antibodies. Wow. What did she do? She used horsoclonal ponobodies? No. Why are they spreading this medical misinformation? Why isn't she being silenced? She's taking horsoclonal ponobodies.
They come from ponies.
Don't they come from ponies? The next day I could feel a difference. 2 days later I could get out of bed and clean the house and feed my children, she said. I really do think the antibodies saved my life. Wait, CNN actually did this investigation? Are they sick? Did someone die? Why couldn't they write whatever they saw on Twitter just like normal? What are they doing? They're doing a real news story. Wow, my hat's off to this writer. The senior medical correspondent over at CNN. I wonder who let her say this. I wonder why she was allowed to say this, because I'm telling you, Big Pharma doesn't want them to know this. So this must have been, I bet she got in trouble for this.
Shouldn't a boxing journalist be handling this story?
I think so. So here we go. Next one. An investigation by CNN. They did it. They did an investigation. An investigation by CNN shows Arana is not alone in her challenge to find monoclonal antibodies. Many patients who qualify for the drugs say their doctors never mention them. So do you see what I say you've been lied to since the start of COVID? What I mean? You've been lied to since the start of COVID. They have suppressed early treatments. Not only this, they've lied to you repeatedly, and guess what? They're still lying to you. So many patients who qualify for the drugs say their doctors never mention them. Even though it has been nearly a year since the antibodies were first authorized, now it's been a year and a half. Was first authorized by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. They're the only treatment for early COVID, and studies have shown they can dramatically reduce the risk of hospitalization and death. Now, I'm pretty sure fluvoxamine has also been proven to be a treatment. Can you Google that stuff?
Yeah.
I know I saw Dr. John Campbell talk about the fluvoxamine, but we're going to double check that right now. They're the only treatment for early COVID, and studies have shown they can dramatically reduce the risk of hospitalization and death. I wonder why Fauci doesn't mention them every time he opens his mouth. I wonder why the head of the NIH never mentioned monoclonals. I wonder why Dr. Sanjay Gupta and Don Lemon don't talk about monoclonals. I wonder why Rachel Maddow isn't tweeting about monoclonals, because it's a great early treatment. I wonder why none of them are doing it, and I'll tell you why. Because they're all bought and corrupt, and they're getting their money from Big Pharma. Rachel Maddow gets $60,000 a fucking day from Big Pharma, okay? Or thereabouts.
Do you know what's sad, Jimmy? That boxing guy, he was not getting paid. He just is being a good boy.
Yes, he's just being a good boy. Our friend Ioli, he's not getting paid directly from Big Pharma. He's just a good boy. He's not going to go against the establishment. Don't worry about it. And Dana White's a bad guy because he's speaking honestly from the heart about his experience. So he should shut up.
That's toxic.
It's like saying, hey, I don't think we should go to the Iraq War. Hey, are you a general in the army? Hey, I think we should try to fix this homeless problem. Oh, I don't think you're poor. What do you know about
Are you
it?
homeless?
Are you homeless?
Are you a Girl Scout?
Right.
Jimmy, I just wanted to let you know that I saw on this the Philadelphia Inquirer, another old drug is being tried and might actually help. Fluvoxamine, a 40-year-old drug that cost a fraction of the price of new treatments for COVID, now looks as if it might help actually.
And that's it. Why do you think they don't want to let you know about that drug? Because it's fucking cheap and they can't make money off it.
Can't we just
That's
let 'em jack
why.
the price up?
So, and I know. Why don't you just jack the price up of all these drugs and then let us get healthy? No, they have new drugs. That's what this is all about. Why aren't they telling you about monoclonals? No one's curious. That Ioli guy, you're not curious that the medical establishment is keeping early treatments from people? That doesn't get your ire up. What gets his ire up is someone talks about it. Isn't that something?
Dude, you know what's wild? I remember when that Kids in the Hall movie Brain Candy came out, and I didn't get it way back when it came out, and that movie was all about this. It's amazing how much stuff they nailed in that old movie. This has been for a while. It's been
I
like
never
this.
saw
What movie was that?
Brain Candy.
Oh,
It's about
okay.
a drug